What am I missing here? What am I missing?
Maybe
All right, so I believe this should be okay. Um, could you please let me know if you can hear me or if you can see me? I think I get this worked out pretty good. As you can see, I do not get to do lives on StreamYard, and this is a first. So I've get to be learning how to do this. Can you please let me know if you can see me? Okay, this is not going to be fun. All right, so you can see me now, but can you hear me though? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Eventually, we'll get this to work. But can you hear me? Can anybody let me know if you can hear me? Let's see. Perfect. All right, Emma, thank you so much for being there and working with me. All right, Facebook. So sorry about all of this. This is really a first. I'm really trying to make this to work and get everybody tuned up for the very reason I wanted you to connect with me today. My sincere apologies. I don't get to do Facebook lives too often, but so you can see that I've had a little hiccups there, but we will get there. So I really want to say thank you to all of you that have taken the time to not only connect, but stay tuned and like all the contents that I have been posted on my Facebook page. Again, I do apologize about the imperfections that you can see. It's part of the process, I believe, but we will get there eventually. I have a few things that I would like to set aside here before getting started with reading the book and then having a formal conversation. I wanted to thank all of the 7K followers that I have on Facebook. I have not taken the time to do so just because when I started this Facebook page, the idea was for me to just share a little bit about what I do on a daily basis and just be out there, right? Just be out there. We live in a world that is often uh, uh, um, geared toward letting you getting lost in the process, right? So it's incumbent to yourself to do what you ought to do to put yourself out there so people can know that you are part of the community. And so that was the intent of me creating a Facebook page to begin with. But over the years, I have realized it and seen that this page has grown into a major hub, whereas people from around the world are reaching out to me just because I posted something they like or something they believe they can use for their different platforms as well. So I want to say thank you to all of you guys that have stayed with me and see value in everything that I post out there. So thank you so much. That being said, I also would like to address another concern, not too much a concern, but something that I just believe I should share and clarify. A lot of my community members, right? And when I say community, I'm really talking about my online and Facebook community. I have people within the francophone world, right? People speaking French. Of course, I am francophone to begin with, but I also have people speaking my native dialect, which is Fang in Gabon, often reaching out to me and especially after I put this book out and asking as to why is it that I only post in English. Now, I wanted to clarify, right? if I post in English, it certainly does not mean that I do not value or I do not, just pay attention to all of you francophone part of my community. Not at all, right? I am from Gabon. Of course, French is my official language, so I do speak French, right? I am from Gabon. Of course, I speak Fon, right, because it's part of the language spoken in Gabon. But I live in the United States, and English has been not only a tool for work, but also it's really a part of what I do on a regular basis. So when I post in English, it's because this is what I do, right? It's because this is the language that I best express and convey what and how I feel. So I wanted to put this aside, and for those who don't hear what I'm saying, because I'm saying this in English, I am asking for my Anglophone community to allow me to say a few words in French, just to make sure that this is set aside. Alors, donc, bonsoir à tous qui me suivez aujourd'hui. Alors, mon nom est Frank Tucker Ebang. Aujourd'hui, je fais un live pas comme les autres, parce que je ne fais pas toujours des lives sur Facebook. Je fais de la publicité pour parfois des organisations dans lesquelles je suis membre, mais pas toujours en live. Alors, ceci est assez particulier parce que j'ai publié un ouvrage et j'aimerais effectivement partager le contenu de cet ouvrage avec tous ceux qui me suivent sur Facebook, sur toutes les autres plateformes où je suis présent. Alors, je donne de la valeur, j'accorde de la valeur à mes followers, dans tout ce qui me suivent en français. Enfants également, parce que je reçois des messages sur Facebook, inbox, comme quoi, pourquoi est-ce que je ne m'exprime pas en français ou enfant, alors que je suis effectivement gabonais, donc francophone, et donc fan aussi. Donc, je voulais rapidement souligner que si je m'exprime en anglais, c'est d'abord pour deux choses, d'accord? Je suis effectivement résident aux États-Unis, donc l'anglais est la langue parlée aux États-Unis. Et ça va bientôt faire près de 20 ans, donc je m'exprime toujours en anglais. Autre chose, je me suis toujours exprimé en anglais, même étant au Gabon. Pour la petite histoire, ceux qui me connaissent, et vous aurez l'opportunité pour ceux qui vont lire l'ouvrage, donc de découvrir que je n'ai pas commencé à parler d'anglais aux États-Unis. Non, j'étais déjà, on va dire, anglophone même, parce que cette culture, je l'avais déjà embrassée depuis mes années lycée, où je faisais partie du club d'anglais Martin Luther King au lycée Pauline J.J. Gonju. Donc, comme on dit, les anciens se retrouvent. Donc, si je m'exprime en anglais et que je poste en anglais, c'est pas parce que je ne parle pas français, je parle français. C'est juste que c'est la langue dans laquelle je m'exprime tous les jours. Voilà. Donc, seulement ça. Maintenant, pour ma famille, quand je dis famille avec grand F, enfants également, qui m'envoient des messages pour me dire, ben, écoute, pourtant tu t'appelles Ebang, donc tu es censé quand même aussi parler en langue fan. Ben, c'est vrai, je m'exprime couramment en fan. Effectivement, je suis gabonais, je suis de Bitam, d'accord? Donc, je parle fan, d'accord? Avec votre permission, justement, pour ceux qui m'écoutent, soit en français ou en anglais, je vais dire quelques mots. Alors, pour vous dire, mi va bere yo na mes wo jama kuma yezo ingoyi e de mene bantu mene fan mene gabonais mene fan bitam donc mene va mene tumu ma ko tumu bitam mene va mene fa moto ki mongo ne sandoni ni sele sandon donc mene fa yimo du ma ko tumu mfuan donc et on ko be valate mene fa na mene e bantu mene tumve ngema ngeme zwe jemba mbanso nsomvu bebe mevo meko et comme tout et alors quand je dis ça, je me suis présenté justement enfant dans mon dialecte au Gabon pour effectivement dire que je m'exprime couramment dans ces langues-là. Et donc aujourd'hui, il s'agit pour moi de parler de mon livre Determine, qui est un livre qui est écrit pour le moment en anglais. Donc soyez patient pour ma communauté francophone et fan aussi, parce qu'éventuellement, avec le temps, je vais avoir la traduction du livre, peut-être pas en fan, mais en français, pour la communauté francophone. Donc aujourd'hui, je vais parler en anglais exclusivement, pour que ceux qui ont déjà le livre, qui ont des questions sur le livre, puissent discuter et comprendre avec moi tout ce que j'aurais à expliquer. All right. Now that I have said all of this, thank you so much again to all of my English speaking people here. Again, I appreciate that. I really had to set this aside because I've been getting messages from my community members about speaking in French and what so in fun. So tonight, I really wanted to talk about determine. And while we are at it, I really want to thank all of you guys that already have purchased the book, and not only purchased the book but also read the book. So I'm grateful, and it makes me feel good to know that people out there are reading my story and somehow are relating to the story. So today I have a few questions that I set aside, from all of you that read the book and really wanted to have my insight, what I think about this book. So one of the questions that I get is, what is the book about, right? What is Determined about? So it really took me about, I would say, close to 18 years, right? It took me about 18 years before I really felt that I strongly had to write this book. 18 years because it took me time to grow. It took me time to lose myself. And it took me time to discover myself. So when I felt that I got to the point where I really could sit down and have a sense of identity and a sense of worth, it was important for me to write this book. So Determine is a book that speaks about my transformative journey, right? It is a transformative journey from Gabon to the United States of America. The journey really chronicles my experiences, as first an international student, right, from Gabon to the United States, with all the cultural shocks, the difficulties that a lot of you out there that came to this country as international students can relate with, right? Cultural shocks, the financial hardships that comes with finding yourself in a country with no whatsoever literacy into how the system really works. So all of that are things that I wanted to share with my readers. I wanted to be vulnerable like that, right? I wanted to show that if you're going through a financial hardship, a cultural shocks due to the fact that you found yourself in a country whereas you feel lonely at times, you feel unequipped to deal with the system, you are not alone, right? You are certainly not alone. So this is why I decided to write this book. I wanted to make you feel out there that you are not alone, that there are people in this country or in the world who have undertaken the journey of migration and, at their own level, yes, but with experiences that somehow many other can relate with. So Determine chronicles those moments. And I will, take the time to read a few lines with you, and then we can, kind of have a feedback, whatnot, on what you felt or what I personally feel about these specific lines. Another question that I get is, how would you say that your younger self overcame challenges and adversity? Right. Right. So this is a coworker actually who sent this question. He wanted to know what I believe that my younger self, right, that younger me that came to this country as an international student felt, or how was he able to overcome adversity and challenges? Well, it's simple, right? Faith, resilience, and determination, right? Three principles, three values, whatnot, however you want to call them. But this is really what my younger self was able to have as backbone to be able to always jump back, right? So faith, resilience, and determination. Faith, why? Because to me, it was important that I got to the point where I realized that there is nothing that I could do, right? There's nothing that I could do if the higher power, right, God, who created me, who put in me the journey and the destination. There's nothing I could do outside of him, right? But it took me time to really get to realize that and have a feel for it. The other day in New York, I was having a book signing event, and my colleague and good friend Carissa Denis asked a question similar to this. And what I shared with Carissa about the importance of faith in this journey is, when I came to the United States, yes, I knew, about God. I knew of God. I was baptized Christian, and besides that, I'm a true African, and I have my African beliefs truly pointing toward a higher value. So I had an idea and a belief that God was there, but I have not experienced. I have not found myself in a situation or a set of situations whereas my faith in God could be tested or proven, right? But in the United States, this happened, and in the end, I was able to confirm that God has always been with me and will always be. I'll take the time to share a story, right? So a few years ago, I was in Texas, and of course, I was taking classes as many of international students that arrive at that particular time, and I had to travel. I had to travel to Oklahoma City. And this is because a cousin of mine had also arrived to the United States, and he really needed somebody to pick him up from Oklahoma City to Texas. So I made myself available, and I remember very well that specific day. I hopped into my vehicle and I was driving. Right, I was driving from Sherman, Texas. That was the city, Sherman, Texas, heading toward Oklahoma. I crossed the border. Crossing southeastern in the little town of Durant. Heading toward Oklahoma City. Those of my generation that are familiar with the city and that particular time know exactly what I'm talking about. So heading toward Oklahoma City to pick up my cousin, and I found myself in the middle of nowhere, right in the middle of nowhere. It was late, it was night, and I was running out of gas. So I ran into the ATM, plugged in my card, and get the little cash that I had in there, and went to the clerk, and I was able to pay for my gas. And I'm heading out there, continuing my driving to Oklahoma. And a few miles after that, I had an issue because I felt like, again, I was running out of gas. So I pulled out, right, pulled over, get to this small gas station in the midst of nowhere, and I'm talking about in the middle of nowhere. Now, mind you, not that my previous stop, I forgot my debit card there, so I did not have my debit card with me. So I got in there to the gas station this time, trying to get gas with the clerk. Then I quickly realized that I did not have my card with me. Now, the attendant there in that gas station clearly found the situation a little suspicious. He would not have eye contact with me, and he was okay, right? But at that particular moment, I felt like I needed God right there. I felt like I needed God right there. So I hop into my vehicle, and I'm sitting there, and in the midst of trying to assess the level, the anxiety and also the fear, because I was in the middle of nowhere. There was no lights, besides that little gas station area. What am I going to do? How am I going to leave this place to find myself in Oklahoma to pick up my cousin? So I prayed. I just prayed. I prayed, and I asked God right there at that moment. I said, God, you know, I am not going to Oklahoma City to go and have a good time and have fun. I'm actually going to help out my cousin and bring him to Texas. So this situation is out of my hands. I need you to do something about it. And believe me, when I say right at the moment where that prayer was done, this vehicle pulls over, and this man gets out of the vehicle, and I'm watching the man pumping gas. And in me, this voice is saying, go ahead and let the man know about what the situation is. Now, another voice in me also asking me to be cautious about it, and not go out there, and because I didn't know, right, what was the man about, how he was going to take the situation. But that smaller voice trumped that. And I went out there and I talked to the man, and I literally told him, "Hey, sir, I'm trying to go pick up my cousin in Oklahoma City, but this is the situation. I forgot my debit card in the previous stop." The man looked at me and he said, "You know what? Fill up your tank." Now, I really did not need to fill up my tank that day. I was a few miles to make it to Oklahoma City. I just needed something to get out there. But he looked at me and he said, "Go ahead and fill up your tank," which I did. Once I was done filling up, the man told me, "Can I ask a favor?" I said, "Yes, sir, of course." And he said, "Please do it for somebody else. Do it for somebody else." I never forgot that. And he left. And I was able to make it to Oklahoma. Now, fast forward in the story, right? Years after that incident, I found myself in Omaha, Nebraska. Many of you know I did live in Nebraska for some years. So I found myself in Nebraska and pulling up at the gas station. And here is this woman bawling in her car. Clearly, she was having a situation and a moment right there. And I could overhear the woman in the car crying about not being able to make it to work because she was out of gas. She didn't have any money. She didn't have anything. And it looked like she had a very important appointment to attend to. She just didn't know what to do. So I went to the gas station and I talked to the clerk, and I was able to tell the clerk, "You know what? Go ahead and allow this woman to fill up, and I was going to pay for it," which I did. I walked out and I told the woman, "Hey, lady, you can go ahead and fill up." She looked at me. She was, "So you didn't have to do that?" I said, "Well, I really had to do it." Because at that very moment, I was able to recall the situation in Oklahoma with the man who helped me out that day. Now, why am I sharing this story? You may ask, okay, what does it have to do with determined, right? Well, it has to do with faith, right? You have to have faith in God. You have to have faith in whatever is it that you believe in. That is the higher power that put in you the journey, right? You are not in a journey alone. If you do not have faith in that whatever power, whatever higher power you believe in, that you know well, put a journey in you, I do not believe you will be able to succeed in this country. I just don't believe so. So faith is one of that. Resilience is a big one, right? Still we rise. Over the years, I have been able to find myself in situations where I reach rock bottom. When I say rock bottom, I really believe, when you reach the rock bottom situation, it's when you know that you are out of strength. There's no way you're going to get out of this situation. That's rock bottom right there. But it's a good situation to be in, because once you reach rock bottom in a situation, the only way out for you is the way up, right? Because if you reach the bottom, the only way, right, for a never quit spirit is the way up. And that's what always happened. So resilience, still we rise. And still I was able to rise in any of those situations that seemingly got me really down. And then determination, of course. This is the never give up spirit, and this spirit has been with me from my younger days in Libreville, Gabon, to New York City, to Texas, to Atlanta at some point, to Nebraska, and I can add today to Virginia. Right, the never quit, never give up spirit. You will not be able to succeed in these United States. Be it an immigrant, an international student, or just a human being or an American here in the United States trying to reach your goals and your dreams. You cannot succeed if you do not have that never quit, never give up, never abandon spirit. You have to have that, and that's determination. All right. So another question that I have is what are some of the main topics and themes in your book? All right, and this question is coming from Romial. Romial is a friend of mine. Romial, by the way, thank you for getting the book. Um, so I really believe that my story, right? My story highlights perseverance, self belief, and I can't help to point that out. Um, Belief in the destiny that is inscribed in you, right? You have to believe that you have a destiny. We all do, right? We all do. So perseverance is the fuel that will keep you going, right? Perseverance will keep you going, and the story of my life is a story of perseverance, right? It's a story of perseverance. It's a story of self belief. There's got to be a point where you just believe that you've got it in you, right? There's got to be a point where you just believe you've got it in you. We all have it, right? There's got to be that one thing that only you can do, right? Not that anybody else, if they want to, can really do it, right? But there's got to be that unique, natural skill set or talent, or just that one thing that you've got in you. Some people call it the gut. Some people call it just a very strong sense of self-esteem or self-value or confidence. But there's got to be that self-belief in you. You know you can do it. And truly, Romuald, I think in the story, I chronicles moments where I had to believe that I can do it, right? I had to believe that I had it in me. When you read the book, you experience my journey when I arrived in Texas, in Sherman, Texas, and getting in this school where at the library, all of these young American college students are all typing on these computers, right? And I'm sharing the story in the book. They're all typing on the computers, and I'm watching this, and I just realized that I did not have the skill set. I was not able to tap as fast as those younger American college students did, and at first it was frustrating, right? I felt a little humiliated because I was older in age, and I just didn't know how to tap on the computer as fast as they could do it, right? But I knew that I got it in me. I knew that if I decided to put myself into it, that I could do it, right? And this is what pushed me not to give up. It's what pushed me to enroll in classes, evening classes, to learn how to tap on a computer, and not only just tap, but really tap fast, right? So you just have to have that self belief. Um, and I think it's essential in the journey of success in America or not. Um, and I hope that helps. So the book is really an inspirational tale, right? Of never giving up on your dreams, right? You cannot give up on your dream. You cannot give up on yourself. It does not do anybody service, right? If you quit, if you give up, it does not help anybody, right? You were put in the world because you've got something in you. You are kept alive every single day because you've got something in you, and indeterminate. Uh, uh, this is really what I'm stressing out, right? I made sure when I prefaced the book to say that determine is not a memoir for me, right? It cannot be a memoir for me. I got the question in my book signing in New York, whereas was would I consider this a summary of my journey in America? It cannot be that. I believe, when many out there look toward the destination, I look toward the experience of the journey, right? Interestingly, we are always reminded, and I believe it happens every single day, that the destination is not given, right? The destination is not always given. So there is no way you will know for sure, right, that you will make it up to tomorrow, right? There is no way you will know that for sure. So destination is not always given, but the experience of the journey is something that you can know. It's something you can be aware of. And in the awareness of your journey, you can pick and point to elements of that journey that can be beneficial for you, but also for the people behind, right? For the people behind. Um, Too often we are inclined to going forward, and we fail to look behind, right? But you get purpose, or you find purpose in the doing, when whatever you're doing is impacting positively somebody behind you. And that's next in the story of determined, right? That's next. Now that I know that I have a voice, now that I know that I have a voice that is heard through my writings, it's important for me to continue to write. It is important for me to continue to talk. It is important for me to continue to raise awareness on what I have experienced, which I believe somebody else can learn from, right? This is what gives purpose to my life. It can be professionally, it can be personal, but you've got to be able to find out in the journey, in your journey, what is it that you leave behind that can positively impact somebody else? Um, I got another question, and I'll see if I can address that quickly. And this was from Henry. Okay, so how do you capture in such vivid way all of the experiences that have made you today who you are? Okay, so Henry would like to know how, and thank you for reading the book, Henry. I appreciate that. I appreciate, I really, because this question really tells me that not only did you purchase the book, but you read it, right? And because you were able to see how I was able to capture those moments. I believe, I dive into the vulnerable part of me, right? A lot of us, immigrants specifically, we are shaped to be strong at all time, right? We are molded to be strong at all time and never show weakness, and never sometimes even never cry, right? Because this is what we've been taught, right? If you go out there, you have to be strong at all time. So being vulnerable is a little bit of a taboo, right? It's a taboo within most immigrant communities, especially with men. There's no way you've got to be vulnerable. But believe me, there's got to be a time when being vulnerable is actually healthy, right? And to me, being able to capture those moments that come out so vivid in the book, had to do with going back to the moments where I felt like, yes, this is it, I'm done, right? Like, this is it, I'm done. In the book, I'm talking about the experience of selling newspapers, right? And I was selling newspapers in New York. My very first experience of doing that, in the midst of winter. Now, mind you, not that, coming from Gabon, I had never experienced winter before, right? So experiencing winter for the very first time was a rather rough experience. Now, I was not prepared at all as to what was going to happen that day. So I found myself, outside a subway with, a bunch of newspapers that I had to distribute, right, to people coming down from the subway, from the MTA subway in New York City. But I was not prepared about how rough the winter was going to be. And that specific morning, I literally cried, right? I literally cried, and I wondered, why is it that I was there in New York City selling newspapers, right? It did not make sense to me, right? I left my home country of Gabon to come and to the United States, and in a pursuit of my education, in a pursuit of higher education, to say and be more precise. But there, I found myself in New York City selling newspapers. There was no way I could digest that, and I cried. I got vulnerable that day. But in the midst of doing that, I realized that around me there were older young men like me doing all kinds of old jobs, right? From people, on bicycles delivering foods, delivering clothes, and even selling newspapers, right? So you just looked around you, and you can see people looking like you just doing that very same thing that is putting you down. So that was an eye opener. It woke me up, and I truly realized that there's no way you can complain, right? There's no way you can complain. You have to get up, dust yourself up, boost yourself up, and get the work going. And this is how you strengthen your mindset, right? And it really helped me a lot. Shout out to all my New Yorkers who know exactly what I'm talking about. And New York has that specific in itself, that you can actually see the hustle, right? You can actually see the hustle in New York City. And I could not be grateful enough, for my experience in New York City, because that is where it all started, right? So whatever is it that I have today, that really boosts me up, that really keeps me going in terms of mindset, it's in New York City, because I saw that over there. It was prison every single day. You could see it. You can see people hustling, never quitting, never giving up, and just keep pushing every day. And just the sight of that, transformed me, right? Transformed me from a kid that, only worried about, okay, go to school, get a good grade, and at the end of the day, perhaps get a scholarship and whatnot, to somebody who actually had a vision, right? I began to build a vision. And I knew that the only way I will be able to sustain my vision is by staying strong and never give up. So New York City really played a very fundamental role in molding and shaping the man I have become today. So shout out again to all my New Yorkers out there. All right, so I'll take the time to read a few lines in the book, and then share a comment. And if you have a question, you can ask in a comment. I'll try to read it and see if I can answer. But if not, we can just try to follow the reading here, and I'll try to be fast about it. All right, so here's the book. You can see it. It's Determined, for those who don't have it. The book is available on Amazon. You can also go to www.franktuckerebang.com. This is my author's page, whereas you can order the book as well. And while I do this, just also wanted to remind you, if you wanted to have a signed copy of the book, right? Following this live, just message me, send a message on inbox, and I can get you an autographed, personalized copy of the book, and then at no cost, and no shipping cost, to be precise, no shipping cost. But let us go with the reading here. Few months following my graduation at Pauline J.J. Gonju High School with a baccalaureate degree in literature and languages, I was awarded a government scholarship to continue my studies abroad. A formal admission letter from an accredited academic institution at the school of my choice was the condition for the scholarship to be awarded. Aware of the requirement months prior to graduation, I had applied to universities in Europe, particularly in France, where I hoped to be easily accepted for admission. Indeed, France was a convenient choice primarily because of the language, but also because I knew about relatives and friends who had immigrated to France. Unfortunately, by the time I graduated, I still had not received any responses from any of the schools I had hoped to be admitted to. I began to run out of time to meet all the requirements that kept my scholarship award in a pending status. Aunt Susan, who was my English instructor during my sophomore year, had talked to me about the possibility of going to America to continue my education after I graduated from high school. She believed that I could do well studying in America, essentially because I could learn English fast and thus might not struggle to adapt with life in the United States. While teaching at Paul and J.J. Gongju High School, she often traveled to New York City and would not hesitate to share her feelings about the city with the class. I often listened and stared at her with admiration, hoping that one day she would take me with her to New York. Disappointed and desperate for not being able to find a school in Europe, I decided to reach out to Aunt Susan, who had already returned to New York City. She was my last option, as I began to foresee a year at the local university in Libreville, a not so pleasant experience witnessing friends struggle to validate their academic years because of regular strikes that would turn into major riots opposing students and the police. Luckily for me, it did not take long before Aunt Susan returned my calls. Following failed attempts I made to ring her number in New York City, she advised that I made sure to translate all my high school transcripts and diploma to apply to school in the United States. Before I knew no translators in Libreville that could do the task, she recommended that I go meet a man named Mr. Ngema, who will translate the documents for me at a reasonable rate. Mr. Ngema oversaw the English department at the Ministry of Education. The man spoke and knew English like a British reporter. I was dazzled by his deep voice and how well he could articulate with no accent as he talked to me. Within a couple of days following our initial meeting, Mr. Ngema had translated my transcripts and certified all the copies as required. For a while after my documents were ready, I was unable still to get back in touch with Aunt Susan. I attempted to reach out to her by calling the number I had of her in New York City, but could not reach her. As days passed, I obviously grew frustrated and desperate. I began to believe that it was not meant for me to go to America. While hoping to soon hear from Aunt Susan, I decided one evening to start looking for schools online. But I needed to have access to a computer and the internet. And it was at then that Mrs. Kathleen Dayer became a major character in the adventure to America. I had met with her years before when I was the chair of the Martin Luther King Jr. English Club, which was a mini structure attached to the English department at Gonju High School. Years before I started high school, a group of students eager about learning the language, the English language, started to meet up after classes to discuss subjects in English and ended up starting the Martin Luther King Jr. English Club. All members of the club were required to study and master the civil rights movement and its most iconic figures. We held special days to commemorate the life and achievements of people like Rosa Parks, Dr. King, Malcolm X, Black scholars such as W.E.B. Du Bois, Booker T. Washington, and many more. Mrs. Dayi worked as an attaché to the U.S. Embassy in Gabon, and she had lived in the country for years. She understood well how the country worked and what the realities were for students struggling to succeed. She taught English at the country's main Libreville University, the capital of Gabon. She also ran her own English language institute, not too far from the campus at which she taught. Her institute had an up to date library of English and American literature, which far exceeded the country's main university library. So many students will go to her institute for private courses, to conduct research for their classes, to have access to better materials, or to have a fun time in a nicely updated library. She also hosts major events and celebrations of US holidays. And the embassy officials will go there and hold lectures or seminars on major subjects of US history and academic opportunities. University students were required to attend those events, and at times they would send invitations to the Martin Luther King Jr. English Club. Now, the night I left, and I fast forwarded the writings here to get you to a more personal line. The night I left, all my siblings and closest relatives joined my parents at the airport. There was joy and sadness as I was going to a land none of them had been before, a place they all had learned from or about, mostly through news on televisions or through movies. Everyone had something to say to me about never changing my identity, forgetting about what I came from as I lived in America. There were talks about life in America as if they knew for certain what it was like over there. But I knew they all wished me well and hoped strongly that I would make them proud. By the time the announcement was made that people departing to America had to head toward the security check room, my father held me aside. Looking at me straight in the eyes and with his low and calm voice, he said, education is a race. And from here, you have proven yourself to be able to win that race. As I am your father, I see no reason for you not to do well in school. Now you are going to race in the land of giants, and you will need to become one for you to win the race. That night, my father certainly sounded like someone who knew something about where I was going, but did not want to tell me and hope only that I will find out on my own once in America. With a flow of emotion in my mind, staring at my father and all my brothers and sisters waving goodbye, I could not ask my father what he meant, but I promised him that I was going to remain focused on the purpose I was living for and honorably carry his name, which he always said was his one legacy to all his children. Um, it's a very personal moment when I read this part of my book because it's the part where I get to look back and wonder or assess where I am in the journey. Right, this is where it all started. You know, I look back, and many of us ought to be doing that sometimes. Right, we get lost too often, not only in the journey but also in the destination and all the in betweens. But sometimes it is important to mark a pause and then look back to those moments that really were the you know the trampoline for you to make it to America, right? Look back to that moment, that one instance you felt like, wow, this is happening, right? And reassess how you felt then. And I believe by doing that, you will be able to find the energy and the strength to keep on going. All right, so guys, I said I was not going to be too long about this 1 hour moment with you. Just a few updates. I'm working on a book signing event in Houston, Texas. So all of my people in Houston, Texas, be ready to welcome me in Texas, as we will be having conversations with about determine. I want to make sure that this is a moment. All of you down there in Texas, and I know some of you are very much familiar with some of the experiences that I share in the book. We can all get together and discuss them, and look back to where we are from here. So Houston, Texas is next. Simultaneously, I'm working on getting the book translated into French and also into Spanish. We'll have soon, hopefully by the end of summer, a French version of Determine, and also a Spanish version of Determine. Also, in August, I will be attending a program in Panama. It's a cultural program about authors, about Black authors in Panama. So I will be attending that. And that's for my people, my Hispanic speaking, my Spanish speaking people in the community that may find themselves in Panama, because the program will be in Spanish. So I will be there. Será una oportunidad de hablar en español sobre lo que se trata del libro. Eso es para mi gente quien habla español. Nosotros podemos encontrarnos allá en Panamá a discutir este libro, platicar un poco sobre lo que yo voy a hacer para que ese libro sea disponible a lo que lo quieren leer en español también. That was just again for my people, my Spanish-speaking people in my community. I have a vast community of people speaking French, English, Spanish. So when I do this, just bear with me. I'm trying to make sure that nobody is left behind. I will be giving more time to coming live on Facebook here. Providing that I get to master all of the platforms and all of the tools to engage you more on what Determine is doing and what's coming next. So, guys, thank you so much again for spending this time with me. Again, I appreciate you all. Stay with me, share the word about the book. Also, for those of you who already have the book, I would really appreciate if you could go to Amazon and leave me a review. Okay, it's very important for the book as well. Go ahead and leave me a review out there. Very much appreciate that. And then we'll see you then. All right. All right. Bye bye, guys.